Are there any additions to the agenda?
No.
All right. Need approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Consent agenda. Items 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Motion approved. Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Open forum. Don't have anybody on the sheet, so did anybody not sign in that wants to talk? All right. General business, item number 9, consideration of fund balance and classification policy. Paula?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Throughout 2018, we're going to be bringing all kinds of policies forward each month. Policies are extremely outdated. So it's kind of categorized as in the most important ones are coming forward first, and then we'll kind of scale back later. But so one of the things that needs to be updated as far as following state statutes is our fund balance and classification policy. So this is really just kind of following federal guidelines as far as the wording of it, making sure that we have some of the FTA language in the fund policy. It also recognizes kind of some of our assigned balances that we have, and just kind of keeping those categories in place. It states that we're going to have a unassigned fund balance each year of 40 to 50%. I did do a look back on that, and we've fallen between 42 and 49% for the last 4 years, so that's right in line with where we should be. And again, so it's just kind of getting us up to par as far as where we need to be and making sure that we have all the language in place to keep our fund balance at a healthy level and keeping our designations allowed to be in there for assigned balances. So we'll just need your approval for that.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Paul or anybody? You want to move to approve it?
So moved. Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Item number 10, consideration of personnel policies. Sonny?
Good afternoon. So there were a number of personnel policies included in your packet for review and approval today. I started with 2 chapters, one related to holidays and then the second chapter for leaves of absence. So looking at our current policies regarding these areas and then bringing in some changes and some new policies. A couple highlights in the changes. The first thing you'll notice is that all of our holiday, vacation, sick, and personal holidays all include part-time benefits at a prorated basis based on weekly budgeted hours. So going forward, our part-time staff would accrue vacation, sick, holiday, personal, or would get holiday pay based on a prorated basis based on their weekly budgeted hours. Right now, in some of the policies, they're not getting anything, and other ones, it's some convoluted, hard to follow, can't even understand what they are supposed to get. So this is to make it easy to apply, easy to understand, and to afford some of those benefits to our part-time staff. Some other changes on the holidays. We did make one change to the personal holiday. Basically, our personal holidays and our vacation schedule, we have made them to be consistent across the board. So our collective bargaining agreements right now, their personal holiday has already been rolled into vacation several years ago. Non-union employees still have personal holiday separate from vacation, but we made them consistent. So you're getting the same amount, whether it's a personal holiday or a vacation. It's the same amount across the board. For sick time, the biggest thing here is that we were not compliant with rules specific to healthcare savings plans. When you have a healthcare savings plan that you allow employees to, or that money goes into upon retirement or resignation, the way it is distributed has to be consistent by groups of people. It can't be a choice by individual. In the past, our practice has been that if somebody leaves the organization, they can choose whether or not they want 100% put into their healthcare savings plan, or 25% paid out as taxable earnings and 75% put into their healthcare savings plan. you can't allow that to be an individual choice. It has to be set up by groups of employees. Our collective bargaining agreements had already agreed to do 25-75 across the board, across their members. And so we were making it consistent with the entire organization to be a 25-75. Another difference with the personal holidays is that they won't carry over from year to year because of the way we, so currently personal holidays accrue on at different levels based on years of service. We address some of that by moving the personal holidays at higher levels of service into vacation, and then keeping just 2 personal holidays per year going forward. Those 2 personal holidays, they won't carry over from year to year. Currently, some of the personal holidays do carry over up to a maximum. I think
How long do they have to take, if they have 5 of them on books right now? How
So
long do they have
we've
to take
started
it?
to talk about procedures for how we will make sure that we give people time to use their balances and not lose them. We're not
Right.
gonna,
Yeah.
we're not gonna have anybody lose the time that they have right now
Mhm.
by way of implementing these policies.
Right.
So we've started to discuss how that procedure will, how the kind of grandfather clause will work for existing employees based on balances.
Okay.
I think those are the biggest highlights. Did anybody have any questions when you went through them? And you'll see, for almost all of the leave policies, a statute has been referenced regarding the statute that kind of drives that policy. In the past, we didn't have a lot of the leave policies in our policy manual related to statute, so those are pretty self-explanatory.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple of questions. Vacation time. Is there something in there that if they accrue so much, they forfeit any additional once you reach a certain number of hours?
Yep, so we've always had a maximum of 150% carryover, so you can carry up to 1 1/2 times what you earn.
Okay.
That's how it is right now, that's what's being proposed. The language used to be that if you go beyond that 150%, anything beyond it is forfeited at your anniversary date. Or now we've changed it to just be, once you hit the maximum, it's forfeited. So we're not waiting for the anniversary date, it's at the time that you reach the maximum.
Okay, so if you have 150 right now, kind of back to Mayor Rick's question that he just asked, could be perceived as a takeaway?
Right, so we're not going to, like I had said before, nobody's gonna lose time by way of implementing these policies.
Okay.
So we will figure out based on levels of over your 150%. So if you're, for an example, if you're 3 days over the 150%, you'll have this much time to get down, to the 150% if you're 6 days over. So we're working through how that will work to make sure that we give people enough time so that they're not losing
Okay.
anything that's on the books right now.
I think it's extremely important that when you do this, I understand why we're doing it, is to get the policy manual, so it's the same for everybody. I get that, just for ease of operating. But I think it's imperative that we communicate that properly once the board passes this.
Yep, so one thing that we can talk about as far as effective date of the revisions once they're approved. So there's nothing that says that they need to go into effect the day that the board approves them. And we could have it be that the revisions are effective the first of the month following board approval, which then allows us that time, the roughly 15 days to communicate, make sure that employees understand how it impacts them, give them an opportunity to ask questions. So that's one way to give some of that time between board approval and when it actually goes into effect.
What I just don't want to happen is if somebody's got 150 hours accrued already,
There-
we passed this and now they didn't know about it, and now
Commissioners-
we're forfeiting it.
Right, and throughout the entire year, every policy that we bring forward, it's not going to have a negative impact, an initial negative impact for any employees.
Okay.
You're not gonna lose it tomorrow because the board passes a policy today, they're gonna lose a week's worth of vacation tomorrow. We would never do that. We're gonna make it fair so
Yeah.
that people have sufficient time to be able to use whatever they have on the books at this point. We just haven't figured out the formula yet because
Mhm.
there's not a lot of employees that it's going to affect, but the employees that it does affect is a wide range. One person has 2 hours, one person has a week and a half, and we have to make that fair and consistent.
And you could have a person right now that's banking 150 because they get something big coming up.
Right, exactly.
And so they could be sitting on
And that's the
150
thing.
hours.
And so we're not going to implement something today with the intention of forcing somebody to lose a week's worth of vacation. That's not the intent here. The intent is to get us up to statutes and get our policies up to date, which they haven't been done in a very long time, and that's the intent. So and to get things more consistent with the bargaining units where we can, where it's applicable. There is a couple of things, the sick leave, we aren't consistent across the board as far as payouts go. However, the union has a much better benefit, and for budgeting purposes, we can't allow non-union to equalize in that benefit. Union employees currently, Teamsters, not AFSCME, but Teamsters currently get 100% of their sick paid out at time of resignation. We can't afford that in budgeting to do that, so we've got a limit on that up to 400 hours just to make it feasible. We can't, obviously as an employee, I would love to say that would be the case, but fiscally we just can't do that. So those are the only changes that we're implementing there. Again, we had initially said we were going to implement the policy on the date of the board approval, just because that's an easy following to say, well, the board approved it today, therefore it goes into effect today. If the commission chooses that we wait and have it go into effect the first of the month following that, we can certainly follow that going forward as well. But in no case would an employee have a negative impact based on your approval today.
I guess my question then is the 1st of February a realistic date for you to implement this policy, or should it be the 1st of March? Should it be the 1st of July?
I think just because we want to move it forward, I would say the 1st of February. I mean, there's
That
not.
gives you enough time to do this.
And then we can be consistent in doing, and always being the first of the month following
Following the
board
board.
approval.
Okay.
Mr.
So
Chair.
do you want to make that amendment, add that date, and the other aspect of what you were talking about, no loss of accrued sick leave? or
You would have to
vacation?
say no immediate loss, right? Because we don't know what the.
Because
other
there will be
policies are
losses
gonna be.
later,
At some
or there
point.
could be
Yeah.
losses
Well,
later.
Yeah, I
no
don't know
loss
if
to
they're
what's
gonna
been
be
accrued. right?
No immediate loss, or however, but yeah, I mean, that's
You
not.
get the
of
intent of
policy.
what has been discussed, but, maybe just, so it's clear based on your discussion, but someone want to make that motion to make it?
Yeah, I would move that we would add that no employee loses anything that they've accrued up to a certain point, and I guess I don't know what day that is, because just because it's February 1st doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to get more, because
And again, it's not gonna be,
I think that's
they
a-
only have
up-
until February 1st. We're thinking
Yeah.
like a year.
yeah,
We're
up to what
thinking like
up to
your
management, up to what
anniversary.
staff
Yeah.
decides.
I mean, what we've talked about to this point is that depending on how far beyond the 150% people are, will determine how long they may need to get back down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just it. So
Yeah.
whatever that policy is, however you want to word it in the minutes or
Yeah.
whatever.
Do you, can you say a year, and then, is there some period of time that if it doesn't happen, you come back to us and
See, and that's
get an
what we want to
extension?
look at. So the current policy is you have a 150% accrual up to use up to your anniversary date. Okay, so if we implement this policy and then the people that are grandfathered in, do we look at that and say, okay, they have up until their next anniversary date, because
Mhm.
that's what it would have been anyway, to get that back down.
Yeah, that would be
So-
clean,
You
and
wanna-
and they
wanna
know that.
Say that,
And they
so
know
that way
that.
it's in
Yeah.
minutes,
Up
it's
to,
in writing.
up to their anniversary dates, because then it could be February 2nd.
It could
Those
be-
people already know that.
But then they know that.
That
They
anything
were
goes over
operating under
that.
that
Correct.
It could be January 29th, which they have a whole year to then do it.
Right,
But that's
right,
just the
yeah.
way it is.
Right.
Want to incorporate that in your motion?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Well, and that these policies become effective the first of the month after the board approves them.
Okay,
I'll second it. I have a question.
all right. On that motion?
Sonny, you said February 1st is enough time to communicate this, though?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I've already done one initial communication that lets employees know that all of our personnel policies are going to be reviewed over the course of 2018, and that they will go in small chapters. to every regular monthly board meeting. Then the intent was that after board approval, a communication would go out to say, here are the policies that have been approved. Here are kind of a summary, just like I did here today. Here are the main impact or the main revisions to those policies and how they may impact you as an employee, and then give an opportunity for people to ask questions.
I think it would be good to do that then, and have direct the questions towards you or whomever.
Yep.
People here that understand the policy and what you're doing and how many hours they have accrued, because everybody's going to be a little bit different.
Yep. Yep.
So if any questions come your way, then you could just direct them back to Metrobus, and then
Okay.
Metrobus can answer the questions in case you guys may get questions after the fact. Then you can direct them back to HR or myself or Paula Massey for any for further clarification.
I think that time will help with the accruals.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Department updates?
Operations, at the end of your agenda item, we have year-over-year FY16 versus FY17. We had a slight decline in ridership. Some of the possible causes, and you probably already heard this a number of times, in 2016 we changed our routing and we have more one-seat passengers than people are transferring less to make it more efficient for the customer. Lower St. Cloud enrollment. We have Uber and Lyft that is beginning to do a little more business here in the community. Changing socioeconomics. More jobs, more available money to buy cars, to buy fuel because of lower fuel prices. So we started working with internal staff, a committee to look at ways on how to improve the services. We're also working with the RAC committee, trying to get input from those folks. And so we're looking at all this kind of ways that we can improve services, look for efficiencies, and how we can become more effective. Also studying the long-range transit plan, which was updated on March 2016. So we're looking at phase 2 to see if we can take some of those ideas and move them into reality. Our planning manager should be on board shortly, hopefully within the next few weeks. And then we'll pass the notes and the baton over to this individual so we can kind of move forward and look for ways we can improve services.
All right. Any other updates? Any other business?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We adjourn.